And we are live, guys. Welcome to another live stream from the Women of High Value channel. My name is Joseph Darling. Today we will go through Masculine Revival's latest posts on Instagram. He gives me tons of stuff to talk about. Sometimes I struggle, I gotta admit it. Sometimes I struggle to figure out, what's the next step for people to learn about on the Women of High Value channel. On the Men's of High Value channel, I got tons of stuff. But the Women's is kind of like, it's such a broad thing, and I need to kind of concentrate it down to one thing and, just a few principles. And it takes time to really address the simple stuff. So if you got questions, if you got thoughts, please comment down below and I will definitely make videos on the subject. So this is Masculine Revival. He's grown massively this year. Very proud of him. Really cool guy. And he's got some neat ideas when it comes to masculinity and femininity, which is basically polarity in relationships, man moving towards masculinity and women moving towards or returning to femininity. And he's got some good posts. So we'll go through the last 3 posts and we'll discuss them together in this video. So let's go first to masculine men command respect. Well, let's look at first. Let's read this together. A masculine man commands respect by inspiring the respect of his woman. Respect isn't earned simply through being a nice, agreeable guy. It is earned through demonstrating the ability to put your foot down and show where you stand. Well, obviously, if you're just being a Mr. Nice Guy and allowing yourself to be run all over and the only thing that you're trying to do is to, please, 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 what can I do for you? Oh, blah, blah, blah. Then she's gonna kind of feel that you're a bit repellent or repelling to her. And it's not gonna really be a very comfortable relationship for neither of them. He continues, if you cannot stand up to her, do not be surprised when she treats you like you can't stand up for her. Right? If you continuously submit and like, oh, sorry for doing that, and I can help you, and what do you want me to do, blah, blah, blah. What happens when there's a dude that comes by and he begins to threaten them or her and the kids? Is he just gonna submit and be like, oh, what do you want to do? Like, do you get what I'm saying? A masculine man is going to be able to stand up for himself, but also, according to Masculine Revival, stand up to her. Ooh, we're gonna talk about that in a second. Are you stuck in the nice guy routine, not commanding respect in your life and relationship? We're gonna keep going and see. There's a big difference between inspiring the respect of, okay, women can feel the difference. And then trying to instill fear in a woman in a vain attempt to make her to respect you. Okay. Yes, I agree. Women respect and feel safe with men that can lovingly call them out on their BS. This I heavily disagree. So this is gonna get interesting. Men like this demonstrate backbone and character which inspires feelings of trust and safety. What does it really mean to call a woman out on her BS? Let me tell you a story. When we discovered the manosphere, or the red pill, so to speak, or this environment that finally, now the internet had allowed female nature to be truly explained. And what does that mean? Was basically players who was ramming through a lot of women were finding out that women were extremely similar. And they do a lot of the same things. And the same things that someone could do, like with the woman here, that could be done elsewhere in the world with the woman over there. It's like, women are incredibly the same. Like, same principles apply almost everywhere in the world. And the more they began to discover this, they began to teach it to other potential players. These were called pickup artists. And these pickup artists, why were they learning this stuff? And it was called game, by the way. So basically, they're hunting. And game was taught to these guys, and their sole goal was to get laid. Okay? That's their entire purpose. They just want to sleep with as many women as possible. So this was pickup artists, and it started around the 90s. Obviously, this has been going on for ages, but this was the first time that it actually came out online, on Reddit or on other forums or whatever, where men were gathering together talking about women. And we discovered this. And I had no idea how this worked because I'd been protected from all this stuff. Like, I wasn't a player. I was someone who married as a virgin and wanted my wife to be happy and for us to enjoy life together. Like, that's all I knew. And as we, entered into that relationship, had no idea about red pill and manosphere at that time, we suffered the first 2 or 3 years trying to figure out why she was not attracted to me. Now, this was a normal occurrence for me because all of my past girlfriends, during my hardcore committed, nice guy type of relationship I had with each of my previous girlfriends, they would lose attraction. And I had no idea why. And I thought that this had turned around once I found the right girl. And as we approached the wedding, things were still kind of working out. I was just like, she must be the one. And then we got married, and then our honeymoon sucked. And then continuously after that, it just kept going downhill. So for me, that was unacceptable because I was repeating again the same pattern that I had done previously, even though this is now my wife. So I knew I was in trouble, and, I was really in trouble the day she told me that I don't want to divorce you. And just hearing that sentence, I was just like, okay, drastic solutions. What is it? Drastic problems needs drastic measures. I guess that's the one. And I began to study, and I began to Google it. I began to look online, like, what is it that causes women to be attracted to men? And this is when I began to become introduced to players, pickup artists, and all that crap. Now, I'm grateful that I found it, because or else you would not be having all of this information from me on this channel today, and I wouldn't have dedicated my life to understanding more about female nature and teaching it in a simple way so that men can actually understand it and treat women well and make families function so that kids can be happy and grow up to also be happy, and then in turn understand female nature themselves, and in turn create a fantastic next generation. I'm taking my time to explain this because there's a point to it. As we now found this manosphere information, I began to discover that, so it's like, she's not attracted to me, but this is built into a woman's hypergamy, meaning her desire to continuously find a better man. And she now was with a low value man because her attraction level for me had massively decreased. The more committed a man is, the more gung-ho he is about the relationship, the less she is going to be about the relationship, the less effort she's going to put into the relationship. Polarity. Understand polarity. Just like there's masculine, there's feminine. There is working on the relationship, the other party is not working on the relationship. Do you get that's polarity. To have both people working on the relationship, yeah, that would be amazing, but that's not how the world works. Okay? Whenever you talk to a person and you have a very strong opinion about something, they're going to take the opposite stance immediately, even if they 100% agree with you. So just a very simple principle there. So what happened? Well, we were like, okay, so it's all my wife's fault then. She was studying this stuff with me, and she was like, wow, so basically what we're being taught is that if I, as a woman, okay, this was my wife, if I just submit to you, because the whole goal was to basically, as long as the man is superior to the woman, then the relationship should work, was our idea, and what was being taught in the manosphere. So if the man is higher value, okay? And this is very easy for a pickup artist to do. He just needs to make her feel bad about herself and lower her self-worth and do whatever he can to tear her down, because then he's automatically better than her. This is what players do out there, and it's a horrible thing. And I recognized this from the get-go, like once I understood what they were all about. But I was also studying now, there was a subdivision of the manosphere called the Christian manosphere. Okay, so basically honorable men, kinda. Okay, not all of them were in that space. But they were trying to figure out how can we make families work with this information that the manosphere is bringing. So they were kind of moving towards a better direction. I'm so grateful that I found that subdivision. And what they taught was that the same thing as them, but saying that the woman should submit, because that's what it says in the Bible, right? Women submit to your husband just like, you know, Jesus submit to the Father, blah, blah, blah. Or to you know, anyway, there's Christian manosphere, okay? So me and my wife was just like, okay, so if you submit all of the time and I just make sure that I'm superior to you in everything that I do, let's do that. This is when you get this type of information, like Brendan Schmidt, Masculine Revival, and other guys. Okay, this is the next step. This is guys who actually love their women, who study this stuff with their women, and is trying to make amazing relationships out of it. They fall short of the ultimate. And that's what I'm trying to explain with this channel, so that we can actually move to the final level, so to speak, right? Like, truth is that which works in the long run and in the big scheme of things, meaning it works consistently and always and forever, right? Like the principle of truth. And the stuff that is being taught on masculine revivals, you know, it's a lot of truth. Like we're talking 95%. And then there's a few key things that just like, oh, you just missed that one. But I'm mentioning it because we were exactly where masculine revival is today. And it sounds so amazing. And it's a breakthrough in our understanding about female nature in terms of relationships, etc. But we super sped through this process in like a few weeks or maximum a few months. So what happened? Well, me and my wife, we're now, she's submissive now. And every time she, you know, disrespects me or makes me feel inferior, or she commands me to do something because, you know, I forgot something or whatever it was, she would, according to these guys, be acting out of her masculine energy. And I would be, you know, if I actually surrendered and tried to appease her and tried to do what she wanted to keep her happy, then I would be submitting to her. So we couldn't have any of that, because that would destroy polarity and that would destroy attraction, and that's not good. And so what we would do is I'd be telling her that, could you do this? Could you say this more nicely to me? And, you know, and I would try to kind of command respect, but in a way that kind of worked, right? So use people skills and all that stuff. But it created a lot more difficulties in the long run. Immediately, it actually kind of worked. It worked so much that we even wrote a book about it, where the man should make sure to be the head of the household and the woman needs to be submissive at all times and in all places. And if the man wants something, then she should do it, etc., etc., etc. When you have kids on top of it all, and I think that's the difference maker, these guys that are sharing this information with the world, like Masculine Revival, like some other guys that I will be talking about in the future, just to kind of help you guys see the difference, they're almost there. Okay? They're almost there. But they still believe that the woman just needs to be submissive. In other words, she needs to be disciplined. In other words, she needs to be a man too, and follow certain rules. And if she doesn't follow those certain rules, you should, you know, kind of remove yourself a little bit from her. Maybe, you know, for example, if she has created an issue and she's hostile towards you as the husband, or, in the relationship, I'm talking to women here, it's the Women of High Value channel, then the man should stop texting her as much, and he should kind of give her a small silent treatment so that she begins to work for the relationship more. And there's just so many different things. And what we discovered is that we ended up fighting, like for the first time in our entire marriage. After 3 years, we started fighting, meaning that I was, I'm high value, you know what I mean? And I was kind of portraying that and expecting to be treated a certain way because I have standards. And then she was in the opposite side, being burdened. Okay, and this was very interesting because now we understand that burdened equals masculine, unburdened means feminine, right? I had not created an environment where she was allowed to be feminine and unburdened. I had provided two kids within 18 months of each other real quick, and we had them at this time when we were studying this. And she was having a very difficult time, and we were trying to figure out all of this, how this worked. And our relationship was literally deteriorating, but there was more traction there. Do you see what I'm saying? So we were less friends, for sure, but we were a little bit more lovers than we'd had been in the past 3 years, which is nice, right? But not if it comes at the expense of the harmony in the home. And eventually, if you have disharmony and if she doesn't feel safe with the man, and if she feels that he's still kind of low value because of the way that he treats her, then it's not really working long term. Like, we wanted a setting that didn't have to include BDSM type of relationship in order for it to work. And if you look at what people talk about when they're talking about this stuff, it sounds very BDSM-y. And what is that? It's like bondage and submission and all that crap that some people do, and they probably enjoy it and all that stuff. But that's not how I envision an amazing relationship to be. I envision it that the man is so high value that the woman automatically, just because he's massively high value, and the environment is in a way that the man is automatically high value, the woman will, again, automatically be amazed by the man. That's the kind of system we need. Not a system where the man has to lovingly call out a woman's BS. A woman who is unburdened, feminine, and who doesn't have to be disciplined, who is allowed to express all of her emotions, all of the things that she's feeling, and be honest and authentic about what she's feeling, that provides information for the man, both negative and positive information that he can use to create an even better environment for her. This type of setting, I spent a lot of time on this slide, but this type of setting is more, in my opinion, towards the man doesn't have to change if he doesn't want to. Like, he can remain as he is, and he can continuously call out her BS if she is disrespectful. Where does the line go? What is BS and what is not BS? What is it that the man should be doing that the woman wants him to do, but he's not doing, and he chooses not to improve, and she's just stuck with him, not improving, and still has to submit? For me, that's disgusting. And I hope that you guys get an overview of what I'm talking about. This process we went through really quick, like I mentioned, and then we noticed that, this doesn't work. And the reason it doesn't work is because it requires the woman to be disciplined and to focus and to abide by certain rules. And if she doesn't abide by certain rules, then she's not submissive. Then she's disobedient. Then she's this, that, and the other. Why would a man want to throw more responsibility on the woman who he has personally destroyed by giving her kids and by giving her these problems and by creating a difficult circumstance for her? It's always the man's fault, is what we discovered. If a man actually provided an amazing environment for a woman to live in, then the woman would actually be an angel. Do you get what I'm saying? Someone who has their emotional needs met 110% is an amazing creature to be around. Just like with men, if they receive all of their emotional needs met, probably men would be amazing. So, but the man is also able to have an attitude independent of circumstances. So if his environment is not the best, then he's responsible for being happy despite that environment. So he needs to have unconditional attitude independent of circumstances. So despite the way that the woman treats him, he should have a fantastic attitude. He should have a fantastic, drive to him. And the woman is not the same. The woman has a conditional love, and the conditions are based on if the environment allows those conditions. Does that make sense? So if a man creates the amazing environment necessary for a woman's all of her emotional needs to be fulfilled, she will automatically act as an angel, okay? The kind of amazing feminine creature she was designed to be. And that will naturally reward the man for the environment that he's created, which now allows the man to have all of his emotional needs met because she really wants to fulfill the emotional needs of a man that she is just amazingly fascinated by. Does that make sense? So I don't need to call out my wife's BS. That's ridiculous. I need to go deeper and seek to understand what she's going through and why she is saying the thing that she's saying and why she's behaving the way that she's behaving. If I say, I'm calling out your BS, stop doing what you're doing, and don't talk to me like that, I'm literally seeking to be understood, which is feminine, rather than seeking to understand, which is masculine, right? Seek to understand first, then seek to be understood. But a woman, she has emotions, intense emotions, so she will automatically seek to be understood first, and then once she feels understood, she'll seek to understand. Polarity. Do you get what I'm saying? So it's a completely different way of doing things. So, long story short, we discovered that it was all my fault. It was all my responsibility. And it all depends on me creating the most amazing environment for her as possible. That takes a lot of load off of the woman. She's no longer ever to be blamed ever again. There is no BS to call her out on. She's able to be free, emotionally free, independent of circumstances. The crazy part is that kind of, social settings kind of determine how a woman behaves anyway. It's interesting how that works when she's around other people. But if she's within the four walls of your own home, she should be able to speak out whatever she feels. And the man, as the tree trunk, he should be able to take whatever it is that she's struggling with because he's responsible. He hasn't created the environment that he needs to create. So let's keep going. I found out it was all my fault, and as a result, everything changed. Everything changed. Before we continue, I just want to share with you guys a quick story about my parents. My father passed away about 2 years ago. My mom is doing great. She's healthy and lives, and it was wonderful. But she told me that the last couple of years of their lives, okay, so we've known this information for 4, 5, 6 years, right? It's more now, I guess. Yeah. Anyway, so the last few years of their time together, my parents, they were learning the stuff that we were teaching, obviously. And we shared with them our thoughts and ideas and how it's always the man's fault, etc., etc. And, my parents have always had small tiffs with each other, right? You have parents as well, and you've seen how men and women operate in monogamy, in regular marriages. And my mom told me that, almost every time that they have a small little tiff, at one point in the conversation, one of them is going to say, so if it was my dad at that time, he would have said, but it's all my fault anyway. And then my mom would respond, yes, it is. Absolutely. Or, or vice versa, right? She would say, it's all your fault anyway. And then he'd like, yes, it is. And then the argument would stop immediately. No more argument. No tiff. Nothing. You know what they would do instead? They'd start chuckling together. They start laughing together. And they'd be happy again after the tiff. Because they knew that it was his fault. Like, do you get what I'm saying? Do you understand what this actually does to a husband and wife? Like, it allows them to be best friends all of the time. Now, the problem in monogamy is that you don't want just to be best friends. And that's the problem that we can tackle in a different video. But that's what happened to them. And they never really fought like big scale ever again. And it's the same thing with me and my wife. We never fight. Okay? If she has something to vent, she vents. She gives it to me. Okay? And I receive it. Because I know that there's an environment there that I have not created yet. And I'm working on it. And I know that it's going to arise. So I don't get crushed as a result because my attitude is independent of circumstances. At least that's what I'm working towards. So just kind of wanted to give you guys that happy story of my parents. They had a fantastic relationship, as he passed away. And that meant a lot to me. Like they wouldn't have had that if we didn't figure out this information. So you can have this in the future too, but you don't have to just have it in this. You can have that, okay? The aspect of you as a woman being emotionally free forever. And massive attraction towards your man. If you understand the principles that are taught on this channel, we take the best of both worlds and allow you to enjoy it in harmony. Trust me, if there's such a thing as a family in heaven, and the man actually obviously has provided an environment that is conducive to women's emotional needs being met, heaven, right? They don't fight. And they don't call out each other's BS. And it's not because the woman has developed or progressed on her journey towards becoming a better person. Women are natural angels from the get-go. How do I know? Just look at kids. Feminine creatures. Women, feminine. Man, masculine. Learn, develop, grow, suffer. Okay, pain. Good, awesome, we love it. Kids, feminine. And guess what? When kids are unburdened and they can just play and be carefree and not have to worry about anyone fighting or forcing or doing any stuff like that, kids are angels and they care for each other and they naturally want to make everyone happy around them. It's the exact same thing with you women. It's amazing. But anyway, we'll keep going. Men draw lines, set limits, create boundaries, and provide structure, all of which allow for the right environment for a woman to embody her femininity. She feels safe, secure, and trusting. He feels respected, valued, and appreciated. Okay, first of all, how important is it for a man to feel respected, valued, and appreciated? It's kind of important, right? Well, can he feel that way despite how she treats him? Is that possible? Like, is it possible that a man could have a filter over his eyes, his mind, of when someone says something negative to him, he can literally transform that in the twinkling of an eye and make it into a positive thing? If you've seen my most watched video on this channel, which is the Will and Jada video, open relationship, something, I believe, just search Will and Jada, open relationship, women of high value, you'll find it. You can read the comments there. There's about 500 comments there, and I replied to each one of them. 99% of them were negative comments. I replied to each one of them and turned them into a positive thing. I was fired up, okay? In the same way, a man should be able to feel self-worth, feel respected, valued, and appreciated, even though his woman doesn't feel like it in this specific moment. Because if he actually allows a woman to vent, allows a woman to express herself and get rid of all the crap that's being stored in her heart and in her, her body, she's going to return back to normal real quick. Which means that the man knows that at this moment in time, I might not be respected, valued, and appreciated. But I know that that's my fault. That's not her fault. She's just venting it, which is what I want her to do, so that she can return back to normal as soon as possible to feel safe, secure, and trusting that I'll never leave her. I'll never, escalate a conversation with her or make her feel bad or help her to have a lower self-worth as a result of, if she was to shout at me or whatever it was. Why? Because I know that she already respects, values, and appreciates me the vast majority of the time. So I don't need her to always do that independent of circumstances. Do you get what I'm saying? So I don't need a woman to be disciplined and remember that she needs to treat me a certain way or speak to me a certain way. Let her speak. Let her express. There is an exponential growth curve with everything, but especially when it comes to women's emotions. Women's emotions, it goes like this. There's an exponential... I really hope that this video is working. Yeah, it is. Women's exponential emotions. It goes like this. Exponential, right? Okay. If we suppress her emotions, or if you suppress your emotions, this is what's going to happen. You're going to, before liftoff, before being able to express it, okay? If you're not expressing it there in the beginning of the exponential curve, it's going to explode and everyone's going to hear it. Right? We don't want it to get to that point. We don't want to get to violence. We don't want it to get to throwing things around. We don't want to get to the point of, I need to sleep on the couch or whatever happens. Okay? We want to make sure that we nip it in the bud here. But how do we do that? By calling out her BS? No. By allowing her to vent. Just get it out. Like, tell me what's going on. Why do you feel that certain way? Give all of it to me. Right? That allows her to, instead of fighting that uphill climb, which she will fight if you keep trying to suppress her because those emotions are intense. Like they're like weed going through concrete. Like, it's going to explode, right? But if she is allowed to vent, then it's almost like the cap is there, naturally allowing her to... Does that make sense? Like, so instead of the airplane going up, it's like... goes down for landing again, if that makes sense. So there's a question here. Someone is asking a question. Why do women manipulate? Okay. So this stuff that I'm explaining here, obviously you have to take it with a pinch of salt. I have to say this because it doesn't work very well in monogamy. Okay. And the reason why is because of attraction, right? So you actually are able, with people skills and with allowing her to vent, as I'm still speaking to women, right? If the women are allowed to vent, like, you'll be best friends, but the attraction is not going to be there as much. But there's still more room for, intimacy, so to speak, but there's no spark, there's no fire, there's no massive attraction. So it doesn't work in monogamy. And this is why I've created a massive channel to explain all these principles, and I recommend that everyone studies this channel like crazy. But when it comes to then, so I'm saying take everything with a pinch of salt, but it's because if you try this in your monogamous relationship, like, you're going to get half of the picture. Like, you're going to feel like it's not working. Because she's been storing up a lot of crap over a long period of time. And now she's like, oh, I get to vent this on you? And then you get to see what's actually going on behind, the scenes, behind her brain. And she might have stored up a lot of stuff, which means that as a guy, he might not be able to handle all of the dark stuff that she has there. So do I recommend that men practice this in monogamy? I recommend having coach. Using me as a coach. If you have a woman that you want, like, if a man has a woman that he wants to keep for life, then get me as a coach. to actually understand how to handle all this stuff. And if you as a woman are married and need a man to step up to the plate and apply the principles that I'm teaching, then send him to me, nicely, or just see, oh, you should check out this channel, whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's stuff that you can do. But anyway, sunshine inside. Why do women manipulate? I'll explain real quick. Well, women are very good at getting what they want. Okay, they're immediate creatures. They're now creatures. So they're going to use every means possible to get what they want. And so manipulation is obviously a big part of that. They're not really thinking about the long-term picture of what's going to happen as a result to the person that they're manipulating. But manipulation is a complete, it's part of lying and deceiving, right? So it's a burdened woman trait. So it's not her fault. She's massively burdened, and that's why she's manipulating, if that makes sense. Like a feminine creature that has all of her needs met and everything's absolutely wonderful would not manipulate. She has everything that she wants and needs. Why would she lie, cheat, and deceive to get what she wants and needs quickly, if that makes sense? What if your mother was practicing 3 in love and now their man is gone? How do they provide then for themselves if they rely on the man for finances? Should they find another man? Well, obviously, he would not have entered into 3 in love without having a massively strong financial foundation, which gives them enough time for them to find another man. At least, that's kind of how I look at it. Why should they not be able to find another man? Some women might just they're kind of at the end of their lives. Maybe they're all 70 and the man passes away. I have no understanding why the man would be passing away. You live a long time with 3 in love because you're fired up outside your brain. But in general, if the man was to pass away from an accident or for something that happens or he dies, then they would have the financials that he saved up and that he's given them. And they would obviously share that equally and still live together. There's no reason for them to depart from each other. And they would find another man. But they wouldn't provide for themselves. Like a man of high value has a lot of cash. Okay? Like a cash that could last lifetimes, including those 3 women's lives. Okay? There's no reason for a woman like in 3 in love to be worried about the financials after a man is gone, because they have capacity to find another man by the time that money runs out, in my opinion. So, but that's 3 in love. Study that further on the channel. But ask more questions. I respond, obviously. Okay, so you guys understand this part? So does a man draw lines and set limits and create boundaries? Yes, he does, in order to protect them, okay? So there's certain things that a woman, or women in the relationship that he wouldn't want them to do. But that's a standard that they've agreed on before they committed to each other. Like before the man commits to women for life, he helps them understand what his standard is. If they don't want to live by that standard, then he moves on, right? He just doesn't commit to them for life. And a high value man never ever sleeps with women that he has not committed to for life. So the man, because he has a high standard, he can draw lines, set limits, and create boundaries that they need to stay within so that he can keep doing what he needs to do with trust and so everyone's loyal, etc., etc. So obviously in a relationship, the man should expect from her that it's only us. In this relationship, it's a closed relationship. You don't sleep with anyone else, right? So that's decided from the get-go. Obviously, a woman will only cheat if the man does a horrible job at creating the environment that will cause her to not cheat. His responsibility for the woman to not cheat, because the woman's not responsible. You got to understand that. A woman will follow her emotions. So the man needs to be able to provide an environment where her emotions automatically follow the environment that the man has created. Does that make sense? So, but he still draws lines. He still sets limits. And that could be, for example, with a monthly allowance, for example, when it comes to his financials. Does a man, let them vent with the credit card and let them just buy whatever they want whenever they feel like it? Obviously not. If he's going to become fantastically rich as a man, then he needs to have set boundaries in terms of what we're going to spend per month. And that amount should be agreed upon pre-commitment, so that over time, obviously that will increase, but then he explains that this is increasing now and that's the new limit. But he creates boundaries and structure in order for them to feel safe and protected forever. So that's kind of my take on what he says there. So, but he still allows them to vent. Like emotionally, other than the financials maybe, they're allowed to express their emotions. And the fact that, in terms of cheating, a woman won't ever cheat if she's actually able to emotionally vent to her husband or to her man continuously about how she feels. It's the exponential growth curve again. She won't ever cheat here. She'll cheat here, okay? But if she's able to express to her husband that I'm feeling things for, this, that, and the other person, but she still wants to be with you because you bring her safety and security, and then you expect her obviously to not go through with that through her behavior, but she's allowed to vent, if that makes sense. Like she can express anything to you, and you as a man, because you have, because the man has amazing strength in who he is as a person, he won't mind that she shares that with him because he knows his value and that she'll stick with him no matter what. Again, if that makes sense. I use that all the time. All right. Man leads, woman follows means that men bear the brunt of the relationship and the success or failure of a relationship. Brunt of the responsibility. Do I agree here? Yes or no? No. I don't like the brunt of the responsibility. Man leads, woman follows means that men bear all, in big capital letters, of the responsibility in the success and failure of a relationship. If we use the word brunt, that means that there's a line somewhere. Where is that line? Does it take two to tango? Does it mean that a woman can do this and that and the other and she's responsible because of this, that, and the other? No, never. The man is always 100% responsible at all times for the things that happen in that relationship, no matter what. There is no back and forth on whose responsibility is what. Like, obviously you'll have different roles, but the woman will automatically and naturally fulfill her roles if the environment is conducive to her emotional needs being met. But it's the man who's 100%, 110%, 1,000% responsible for everything. Okay? And especially when it comes to the success or failure of the relationship. So let's finish up. Being able to lovingly and skillfully put a woman in her place is an underrated quality that a man can bring to a relationship. Absolutely horrible. Women, do you want to ever be put in your place? Now, does it happen that I occasionally give my wife a spanking? A small little spank? Yeah, of course. But because she wants to think about something else. Like, a spank can be like a temporary relief, okay, for whatever she's thinking about, to bring her back into the presence. But there comes a point where she has burdens where that spanking does not do any good, where that becomes too much, like too much burden. Like this, you put another problem, now it hurts. And now, do you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't, it doesn't work long term. Okay. Can I just put it that way? It's a short-term measure, just like everything else that is in this post. It's short-term. It works short-term, but it's temporary. And anything that's temporary and short-term won't work in the long run. What works in the long run is the man understanding what type of environment a woman needs for her to be emotionally fulfilled 110% of the time. That's what works long-term. It's not about gimmicks here and doing small things here and what can I do there and blah, blah, blah. No, it's who you are as a high-value man that allows the environment to be amazing and who you are in terms of knowing what she needs at any given point. But not in this way. Not putting her in her place. You don't need that. Like, it's not good for society for women to be put in their place. What does that even mean? Oh, stop doing that, and you shouldn't blah, blah, blah. And like, why would a man, a high-value man, ever need to do that when he has options? That's what a high-value man is. If he has options, he has options. He doesn't need to force or coerce or do anything that causes a woman's emotions to retreat and be scared or fearful or be like, oh, sorry, I won't talk to you like that again. Like, why? If a man has an attitude independent of circumstances, he doesn't need to do that to her. Wanting to be respected like a leader while neglecting the responsibility that comes with being a leader is childish. And I agree with this one, right? Like, if you actually fulfill the responsibility of being a true leader, and we're talking now extreme ownership, 110% responsible, right? And you fulfill that role amazingly, you'll be respected. It's impossible for you not to be respected as a man. Keep changing. Okay. Let's see. You can't agree your way into gaining her respect. What do you stand for? Where are you going? What are you really about? So, yes, stand up for truth. You know, if she says something that's not true, then you need to people skilled share with her why you think it's, you know, maybe this would be the best way to go. But understand that in the vast majority of the cases, like, it doesn't work very well in monogamy. You know? It's like they're recommending to disagree and have issues. Call out her low character behavior when you see it, or you lose the right to complain about it when that same behavior comes back to bite you in the ass. Why does she ever have low character behavior? Ever. It doesn't make any sense. Women never have low character behavior if their environment is conducive for high character behavior. So the question is, what did I do wrong as a man to cause her to have low character behavior? That means I'm a bad leader. Oh, and I need to call her out about it? Like, I need to tell her and put her in her place. Do you see, now that you've understood the entire philosophy that I've taught in this video, if you're still here, you're still listening, this doesn't make sense anymore. I'm not going to call out her low character behavior. She knows. She knows. You know, women have a lot of information stored up there, and sometimes they go against what they know. Have you noticed? Very often their emotions cause them to do things that they know they shouldn't be doing, right? What's the solution? Calling them out? No, they already knew what they were doing when they did it. At least, you know, their emotions just did it for them, right? Women only have one master, and it's emotions. And if the man wants to actually lead her the right way, he has to know how to lead her emotions. Calling out her low character behavior is not going to work well with her emotions. That's why I know it don't work. She'll have to be disciplined. She'll have to suppress it. Or the man has to suppress it. And she has to like, oh, I can't say this to him. I have to keep secrets. Because or else he's going to punish me. Or he's going to feel disrespected. Or whatever it is. That don't work. You don't want a woman to have secrets. And you as women don't want to have secrets with your man. Because then it could go exponential. You don't want that. Men who complain about their nagging wives while they lack ambition, direction, and focus are not going to make it. I agree. Why would you nag ever as a man anyway? So I wanted to actually do the two others, but man, it's been a long video so far. And so I'm going to finish up here. And maybe if you guys want, I'll do a part 3 and a part 4. Does venting only work in 3 in love? Okay, so that's a fantastic question at the end here. And the answer is no. Venting works in any circumstance, but understand that if they've been burdened for a very, very long time, that venting is going to be brutal. Like, that's going to be a very intense venting session. And you should also be very careful about allowing any woman to do that to you, because she'll become emotionally connected to you. Like, she'll need to vent more and more and more and more, which, if you are not committed to her for life, it brings you together in a way that I don't recommend, actually. Like, true venting should really be done with someone that the man has committed to for life, if possible. But if there is no one that's committed to her for life, and as a man, you're very clear on the boundaries and that you allow her to vent, she can do that, but the man just needs to be ready for that venting and how it's going to look like. And no matter what, if she's not committed to a man for life, she's not going to tell him everything anyway. So the venting is not going to be as brutal. But if it's a sexual relationship and the man is trying to get her to vent for the first time ever, it might be brutal, right? Because he's the cause. He's the one responsible for all the crap that she's going through, and she's been trying to be a good girl and keep it all to herself and suppress it, and now she finally gets to vent. It's going to be an intense experience. And yeah. So you should never have secrets for your man. Why would you want to have secrets from your man? Like, as a woman, as a burdened woman, you have a lot of dark secrets. You have a lot of dark thoughts. If you're burdened, that's what happens, okay? Burdened women, dark thoughts. Unburdened women, light, wonderful thoughts, right? It's children, unburdened, bright, light, wonderful thoughts. Burdened children, like, over time, it's an exponential growth curve, and they move towards teenage years, and they have all this, from their childhood built up in them, suppressed, and then they begin to act on it and vent it out in unhealthy ways, right? So in the same way, same thing with women as adults. It's like, are they unburdened? Well, they're going to have wonderful thoughts, and they're going to be wonderful creatures, and they're going to speak softly and speak nicely to each other and love everyone around them, etc., etc. And then they might get burdened, and that will cause things to move towards the dark side, right? It's like, we want women to be in the wonderful light. We don't want them to be in the dark and have dark thoughts and mean thoughts and evil thoughts and that type of stuff. And so a man needs to be able to receive all of her secrets, all of the stuff. And I can tell you that that's what happened with me and my wife, is that we came to the point. That's actually what led us to the manosphere, by the way. Kind of. I was going through that information during this time anyway. But my wife, I came to a point, the moment she told me, I don't want to divorce you, I came to my senses and was like, wow, whoa. Like, okay, now I just want to understand. Like, now I just want to really get to the depth of this and really understand everything, what she's going through. And I'm not going to judge her. I'm not going to get upset with her or anything. I just want to know everything. And that's when I began to ask questions. And she shared them with me so that we could go deeper in our love for each other. And it did. Like, that happened. And I received all of it. All of the crap. Everything. Okay? So I know of all of her experiences. We've gone deep. So, yeah. Never have secrets for your man, but make sure that he's your man. Like, don't share your secrets with the guy that hasn't committed to you for life. That's a bad idea. Do you vent to the man or the women when you practice 3 in love, or both? These are fantastic questions, by the way. Well done. You vent the dark stuff to your man. And you can vent everything else to the women. It's simple. If it's a small thing, like if it's small itty bitty things, whatever, and it's not negative towards each other, in my opinion, then you can vent to each other as women. But sometimes as well, like the whole point of 3 is a wonderful number, okay? When two women in that 3 in love relationship, if there ever is a tiff of any sort, which there probably will be in the beginning, okay? Let's face it, we're all human, make mistakes, and some things we do might be annoying to someone and not annoying to others. So, but there's going to be small tiffs here and there. The cool part about 3 is that the third person is the objective person and can actually mediate between the two others if there's something small. But if it gets bigger, meaning like 2 is against 1, then that's a big thing, and the man needs to be involved to solve the problem for all of them to vent individually to him so that he can know everyone's story and then be able to work it out with everyone, if that makes sense. But in general, there probably won't be that much, like, in the beginning, there's going to be a lot of venting. But over time, because there's never an exponential growth curve, there's always good things happening. That's what's going to be expressed, you know? Like that's the goal, where you get to the point where there's almost no negative stuff happening, and and it becomes better and better over time. So the goal is for women to be filled with joy, bliss, and happiness all of the time, and for the dark stuff to not even, why should it even be there? Why should it even exist when she is completely emotionally fulfilled? You are welcome, the sunshine inside. Thank you so much for watching and watching through. That's 1 hour. So you guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you again, and hope that you watch more of my content. Make sure you like, subscribe, share. No one has this information. Where in the world does anyone tell you that the man is 100% responsible? Nowhere. Everyone needs to hear this. And I'll probably make part 3 and part 4 to his post because they're really good, and I want to explain this further. I'll see you guys in the next one.